Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm excited to share with you the Oris Divers 65, a watch that has completely won me over. If you've been following my channel, you already know I have a soft spot for vintage-inspired dive watches, and this one, well, it just might be my favorite on the market right now. I've admired the Divers 65 for years, but when Oris dropped this stunning bicolor dial variant, I just couldn't resist any longer. Let's take a closer look at what makes this piece so special. The dial. A vintage masterpiece. One of the first things you'll notice is that gorgeous dial. It features a black central ring that gradually transitions into an iridescent blue outer ring, creating a mesmerizing vintage aesthetic. The aged retro-style markers are printed directly onto the dial, staying true to the 1960s inspiration. But what really sets this apart is the 3D domed dial. It's rare, difficult to manufacture, and adds a ton of depth under the highly domed sapphire crystal. And speaking of that crystal, just look at the way it catches the light. The side profile alone is enough to make any watch enthusiast fall in love. Oris has applied anti-reflective coating on the underside, but with such a dramatically curved crystal, some reflections are unavoidable. Honestly, I think it adds to the charm. It gives the watch an acrylic-like warmth, reinforcing the vintage feel. Lume. Classic with a twist, Oris uses Superluminova Old Radium, which gives the markers a creamy vintage look in daylight and a bright green glow at night. However, there is a bit of a downside. While the hands and bezel pip have a strong application of lume, the markers on the dial fade much quicker. So while it's still legible in low light, most of that readability comes from the hands rather than the dial itself. Case and comfort. Perfect proportions. Now let's talk about how this watch wears. Despite its bold design, it's incredibly comfortable. From the polished case back to the top of the bezel, the total thickness is just around 10 millimeters, making it super slim for a dive watch, and most of that height comes from the domed crystal itself, which adds a ton of character. On my 7.25-inch wrist, the 40-millimeter case sits perfectly. It has 20-millimeter lugs, and one of my favorite details, the unprotected screw-down crown at 3 o'clock. It's signed, easy to grip, and stays true to the 1960s dive watch aesthetic. Strap, the Tropic Rubber Perfection. I opted for the Tropic Rubber strap, and let me tell you, it might just be the best rubber strap I've ever worn. It's thick yet flexible, with ventilation grooves that make it super comfortable. The texture has a faux carbon fiber look, and it just feels premium. Honestly, I might buy an extra one just to have as a backup. The Tropic strap pairs beautifully with the retro aesthetic of the Divers 65, making it a perfect choice for both style and function. Movement. A missed opportunity? Now let's talk about one of the few drawbacks, the movement. Inside, Oris is using the Sellita SW200, a reliable but fairly standard movement, based on the ETA 2824. The factory regulation is -5 to +20 seconds per day, which is not the tightest tolerance for a watch in this price range. For a watch that retails around $2,000, I would have liked to see a better regulated version of this movement, or at least some additional in-house finishing. It's not a deal-breaker, but for watch enthusiasts, this is an area where Oris could have stepped it up. Bezel action. A slight letdown. The bezel is 120-click unidirectional aluminum, which I actually prefer over ceramic for this watch because it stays true to the original design. The issue? The action isn't the best. While it's easy to grip and turn, there's noticeable play between clicks, which isn't ideal at this price point. For comparison, there are plenty of cheaper dive watches that have crisper, more precise bezel action. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to be aware of. Final thoughts. Is it worth it? So, is the Oris Divers 65 the best Swiss retro diver? Absolutely. If you're looking for a vintage-inspired piece with tons of character, unique styling, and great proportions. It's fun, beautifully designed, and has an original aesthetic that isn't copying Rolex or Omega. The domed sapphire crystal, bicolor dial, and comfortable wearability make it a standout. But if value for money is your top priority, there are other options that give you better specs, better regulated movements, and smoother bezel action for less money. Would I still recommend it? Yes. And in fact, I might even have my watchmaker regulate the movement to get it within Co-C specs. I'm also considering adding the riveted steel bracelet, which costs around $300 and would complete the vintage look perfectly. I'll be sending this out to Random Rob for his take, so stay tuned for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you own an Oris Diver 65? Would you buy one? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like,